Imagine dropping $45,300 today, just dropping it.
Oh, wow. That is a serious chunk of change.
Right. And you aren't getting a luxury car. You aren't signing the closing papers on a piece of real estate. You are acquiring an invisible string of letters.
Just letters.
Exactly. Specifically, the domain name cursor.en.net.
I mean, it sounds completely absurd on the surface. That is an entire year's marketing budget for a small business. Or, a massive chunk of seed funding for a startup.
Oh.
And it's being traded for, what, 15 characters on a screen?
It's wild.
Yeah.
So today's mission for this deep dive is to really unpack the anatomy of a high-end digital real estate listing like this one. We are diving into sales materials from the registrar spaceship.com and a broker called Massourcing.
Right, Massourcing.
Yeah, to decode exactly how sellers justify a 5-figure price tag for a web address. So for you listening, we're going to look at the aggressive psychological marketing of a single word. The surprisingly frictionless mechanics of moving that much money across the internet, and the seemingly bizarre package deal that comes in the box when you buy it.
Which is so important because, understanding how these premium digital assets are valued and packaged and well protected, it offers a really revealing look into the modern tech economy.
Definitely.
We're basically looking at how value is literally constructed out of human perception and is, strategic branding.
Okay, so let's start with that perception piece because Massourcing's pitch is not subtle at all.
No, not even a little bit.
They aren't just selling a technical routing address. They were selling an entire corporate identity. Their ad copy literally claims that in our modern world, the word cursor has become and I'm quoting here, a universal symbol of action, direction, creation, and control.
That is a massive philosophical weight to put on that little blinking line on your screen.
Right, it's intense.
But, they know exactly who they're talking to. The listing explicitly calls out their target demographic. They list AI platforms, software companies, developer communities, SaaS platforms.
Creative tech brands, yeah.
Exactly. They're aiming a laser pointer right at the current tech boom. These are companies that are just desperate to establish immediate authority,
Okay, let's unpack this because I am looking at this asking price, the $45,300, and I'm really struggling to square it with the actual asset.
How so?
Well, if this were cursor.com, the prime beachfront property of the internet, I would totally understand. But this is cursor.in.net.
Right, the extension.
Yeah. Historically, an in.net extension is the digital equivalent of moving 3 towns over because you couldn't afford the city center. It feels like an ultra high-end real estate agent trying to sell an empty dirt lot by describing the potential of the wind.
The potential of the wind, I like that.
Does the phrase "move ideas forward" really justify an asking price of $45,000 for an in.net extension? Or is this just brilliant, aggressive branding?
Well, what's fascinating here is how they address that exact hesitation. The top-level domain, the .com, the .ai, .ao, that usually dictates the baseline value of the real estate.
Right. .com is the default human assumption.
Exactly. But we're in an era where the prime .com real estate was bought up in 1998. So the seller here is banking on a concept they outline in the source material as premium branding potential.
Premium branding potential.
Yeah. They are betting that the global instantaneous recognition of that root word cursor is powerful enough to completely override the location.
Oh, man. It reminds me of someone selling the naming rights to a massive stadium before the foundation is even poured.
That's a great way to put it.
You aren't buying the concrete. You're buying the psychological real estate in the minds of the millions of people who will eventually interact with it.
And the phrasing they use is distinctive digital asset. They actually position themselves as dealing in trademark-oriented digital assets. They even slapped a little trademark symbol next to cursor.in.net in the copy.
Wait, really? Just right there in the ad?
Right there in the ad. They are commanding the buyer to view this as foundational intellectual property. Because, think about it, for a venture-backed AI startup swimming in millions of dollars of funding, establishing a brand identity that instantly communicates movement and precision is critical. They are wagering that founders will view $45,000 not as a domain purchase, but as a reasonable one-time customer acquisition cost.
The psychology of the buyer is just fascinating here. You have an AI startup founder, maybe running on fumes in venture capital, and they're terrified of launching with a forgettable name.
Oh yeah, the pressure is huge.
So they see Cursor, the universal symbol of creation, and the FOMO just kicks in. They have to have it.
They absolutely have to have it.
Which brings up the next massive hurdle. How do you safely process a $45,300 transaction on the open internet? I mean, you can't just ask them to mail a paper check.
Definitely not. You need a really robust infrastructure of trust. Moving that kind of capital requires a system that feels institutional.
And we have two main entities managing this ecosystem, right? Right. First, the listing is hosted on spaceship.com, which is a registrar based in Phoenix, Arizona. And the sources point out they have a site copyright dating back to 2001.
Which, in internet years, 2001 makes them an ancient, established institution.
Basically a dinosaur, yeah. Then you have Massourcing, the broker providing leasing and strategic acquisition services. But digging into the spaceship.com source material, there's a detail that completely changes the financial reality of this listing.
Oh, the payment plan.
Yes, they offer a payment plan. If a startup doesn't want to liquidate 45 grand instantly, they can secure the domain for $3,775 a month, spread out over 12 months.
It is such a brilliant mechanism for lowering the barrier to entry.
Totally.
Think about the financial psychology of a startup. A massive upfront $45,000 charge is a capital expenditure. It requires board approvals. It eats into the runway for hiring developers. It causes hesitation.
Oh, for sure.
But a monthly charge of $3,700. That transforms a terrifying capital hit into just another operational expense. It blends right in with their monthly server costs, their cloud hosting, their, software subscriptions.
It makes a five-figure strategic acquisition feel deceptively manageable.
Exactly. And to counter any lingering anxiety about the transaction itself, both Spaceship.com and Massourcing just saturate their sales copy with trust signals.
Oh, yeah. They repeatedly highlight buyer protection programs, secure payments, fast and easy transfers.
Spaceship reliability.
Yes, that too. They're bending over backwards to ensure the digital transaction feels as secure as sitting in a bank vault with an escrow officer.
Which is funny considering the actual checkout process.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that institutional framing makes a detail at the bottom of the Massourcing checkout page absolutely hilarious.
It really is.
Down on the fine print, it proudly states that the checkout process is powered by Zilvi, and they call it high-converting cart software.
It's the intersection of elite asset brokerage and everyday e-commerce optimization.
It is so surreal. On one hand, they're pitching the lofty acquisition of a universal symbol of control, right? An elite B2B transaction.
Right.
On the other hand, the literal mechanism taking the money is standard, high-converting retail shopping cart software. This is the exact same breed of software designed to reduce friction so you, impulse buy a trendy pair of sneakers on social media at 2 in the morning.
Yep.
Ultimately, this massive intellectual property acquisition is just another item added to cart.
But, the underlying logic is exactly the same whether you are selling sneakers or a digital headquarters. Friction kills conversions.
That's true.
If a founder decides they want cursor.in.net, the broker wants the path from that emotional decision to the completed payment to be instantaneous.
No second guessing.
Exactly. Any complex paperwork or clunky wire transfer instructions, it just gives the buyer time to reconsider the purchase.
Okay, so we've mapped out the steep price tag, the psychological pressure cooker marketing, and the highly optimized checkout flow. Let's look at what is arguably the most bizarre element of this entire source material.
The perks.
Yes, the itemized perks you get when you actually hand over the money, the package deal components.
Right.
So according to the Massourcing listing, under a bold heading reading what you'll get, they list exactly 3 features: 1-year registration, auto-renew anyone, and free privacy included.
And Spaceship.com does the same thing.
Yeah, over on the Spaceship side, they also heavily highlight auto-renew on and free transaction support.
I mean, to anyone outside the domain industry, this list reads like a parody of a sales pitch.
Completely. Let's use an analogy here. Imagine you finally pulled the trigger on a $45,000 luxury vehicle.
Yeah.
You hand the dealer a massive cashier's check.
Okay.
The dealer vigorously shakes your hand, leans in, and whispers, "Congratulations."
Yeah.
Because you're a VIP, we're throwing in a free tank of gas, and we're covering your first year's license plate fee.
Right. It sounds ridiculous.
A standard domain registration costs roughly $10 to $15 a year. Domain privacy is often thrown in for free by modern registrars, or, cost maybe another $5.
Yeah.
Touting $20 worth of basic administrative features as the core package deal on a $45,300 asset. I mean, it feels like they're scraping the bottom of the barrel to justify the price. Why are they doing this?
Well, because that luxury car analogy, it fundamentally misunderstands the nature of digital property. It works for the absurdity of the price ratio, sure, but physical real estate or physical goods, they operate on different laws of physics than digital assets.
Okay, how so?
When you buy a physical asset, you hold the title. When you buy a domain name, whether the price is $10 or $10 million, you are functionally buying the right to lease that specific string of characters from the central registry.
Oh, wow. So you are just a tenant no matter how much you pay the broker.
Exactly. You never achieve permanent, irrevocable ownership. Your control over the asset exists only as long as your registration remains active and paid for.
That is terrifying.
Well, it is. And this reality transforms one-year registration, auto-renew on yearly, and free privacy included from cheap dealer perks into mission-critical safety mechanisms.
Okay, so let's break down the mechanics of the biggest one they emphasize.
Yeah.
Auto-renew on yearly. Why is toggling a software setting considered a marquee feature of a premium digital asset?
Well, consider the life cycle of that AI startup. They secure cursor.n.net for 45 grand. Over the next year, they raise $50 million in Series A funding. They build out a platform used by 100,000 developers. They run massive advertising campaigns.
So they're huge now.
Right. Their entire digital existence, their software routing, their employee emails, their customer portals is permanently anchored to that specific web address. So the absolute nightmare scenario is an administrative oversight.
Like someone's corporate credit card expires or the renewal notice just gets trapped in a spam filter.
Exactly. The $15 renewal fee goes unpaid, the central registry's grace period ends, and the domain registration lapses. And the moment that happens, the domain drops. It goes back onto the open market.
But surely someone at the startup just, logs in, apologizes, pays a late fee, and turns it back on, right?
In a modern digital ecosystem, it is rarely that simple. There is an entire shadow industry known as drop catching.
Drop catching.
Yeah. There are highly sophisticated companies running automated bots that constantly monitor the central registries. The millisecond a high-value domain like cursor.in.net expires, these bots fire thousands of registration requests a minute.
Oh my God.
They will snatch the domain before a human at the startup even realizes their emails have stopped working.
So the asset is just instantly hijacked by a third party.
Instantly. And the new owner, often a domain squatter, they look at the massive traffic flowing to that address and realize they're holding a multi-million-dollar tech company hostage.
And they are not going to sell it back for $15.
No. They will demand hundreds of thousands of dollars to return the digital headquarters. So when Spaceship.com and Massourcing feature auto-renew on yearly as a core pillar of the package, they're basically pre-configuring a digital insurance policy. They are guaranteeing that the administrative friction of maintaining this critical asset is handled automatically, which shields the buyer from catastrophic operational failure.
Wow, that reframes the entire package. It isn't a free tank of gas at all. It's the dealer saying, we have installed a military-grade anti-theft system to ensure nobody steals this asset while you are focused on building your business.
Precisely. The value of the feature is entirely derived from the disaster it prevents. And, the same logic applies to the third item in the package.
Free privacy included.
Right. Normally, when you register a domain, international rules require your contact information, your name, email, phone number, and mailing address to be logged into a publicly searchable database called WHOI.
Okay, and if a stealth AI startup just executed a massive strategic acquisition for cursor.in.net, the last thing they want is a public broadcast of their activity.
Exactly. They don't want competitors piecing together their branding strategy before they even launch.
Or malicious actors targeting their technical contacts with phishing attacks, knowing they just spent $45,000.
Right, so the privacy feature acts as a corporate shield. It masks the ownership details behind a proxy service.
So a $20 administrative feature actually becomes an essential tool for corporate espionage defense. The package deal isn't about the monetary value of the inclusions. It's about providing an operational fortress around a fragile, invisible asset.
That's exactly it.
Okay, let's pull all of these threads together for you listening. We started with a staggering $45,300 price tag for a .in.net domain. We examined the intense psychological pitch where brokers market the word cursor not as a URL, but as a universal symbol of action, direction, creation, and control.
Right, a ready-made identity for a well-funded AI startup.
Then we dissected the ecosystem that makes transactions of this scale possible. We saw how a $3,778 monthly payment plan shifts a terrifying capital expense into a manageable operational line item.
And how high-converting retail cart software reduces the friction of a five-figure corporate acquisition down to an impulse buy.
Yeah. And finally, we unpacked the seemingly bizarre package deal. We learned that while one-year registration, yearly auto-renew, and free privacy might only cost a few dollars on paper, they act as vital, non-negotiable safety nets.
There are the mechanisms that prevent a massive digital investment from being hijacked by bots or exposed to competitors due to a simple administrative error. It completely changes how you view digital ownership.
It really does. The rules of physical property simply do not apply here.
They don't. But, looking at the entirety of this source material, there is a fascinating contradiction embedded right in the center of their sales pitch.
Wait, really, what's the contradiction?
Well, the broker justifies the $45,300 valuation by claiming the word cursor is the universal symbol of our interaction with the digital world. And for the last 4 decades, that has been undeniably true. The mouse cursor has been our primary tool for navigating software.
Sure.
However, the listing explicitly targets companies building next-generation digital services and AI platforms.
Right, the company's building the tools of tomorrow.
Exactly. But as the internet evolves alongside advanced artificial intelligence, we're rapidly moving toward entirely new interfaces. We are seeing the rise of voice commands, neural links, and spatial computing environments where you navigate using eye tracking and hand gestures.
Oh, wow.
The little blinking line on a screen is becoming obsolete. So, will the concept of the cursor truly remain a symbol of the future? Or, by dropping $45,300 on this domain today, is a startup founder actually purchasing a very expensive, nostalgic artifact of how we used to navigate the digital world?
Are they buying the cutting-edge future or a digital antique? That is such a wild thought. It really forces you to question what it actually means to build a brand in a technological landscape that is constantly shifting beneath our feet. So the next time you imagine spending 45 grand, whether it is on a tangible luxury or an invisible string of letters, remember that value isn't just about what you can touch. It is about the psychology of what it represents, the infrastructure that protects it, and whether the symbol you are buying today will even exist tomorrow.